Aston Villa 0, Tottenham 2. Aston Villa lose yet another home game. Not good enough. Again, not absolutely good enough. I was going into this game thinking we were going to get smashed, and although you could say, reflecting on the scoreline, it doesn't really scream that we've been smashed. I think the performance today, absolutely dreadful. I think in the first 10 minutes we gave it a really good go. I think you could see the confidence from the Europa League exit from Tottenham had still got into their bones, and I think if we were going to really capitalise and try and get something out of this game, this would have been the perfect time to do it. Because they looked really shaky defensively, and we did have one really good chance from a free kick coming in from target, and a good crossing from Bertrand Traore. But then we just absolutely one lapse of concentration, and it's just gone. Martinez probably a most mistake for me in that first goal, making a really poor clearance and kicking that ball away, practically giving it straight to a Tottenham player. And Mings completely out of position, can't really get back to defend. Target is so far out of position, he's practically giving Kane the freedom of the middle of the park just to run in, and ultimately some really poor defending by him, by Mings and Cash, and ultimately they go ahead from Vinicius, and it's just not the steam. Obviously, we even said it when we were watching it. As soon as that goal went in, that was pretty much the game done and done, because we did absolutely nothing after that. And then in the second half, obviously, Tottenham get the penalty from Matty Cash. It was really poor defensively from him. The ball's going out, and he could have just let it go, trying to be sound on his feet, but he's just slid in completely, and he just doesn't look like any intent to win the ball, try and making any defensive recovery tackle. And he's just completely given away the penalty, and Harry Kane slots it in for 2-0. And that's pretty much it. I know Tottenham were trying to go for a few more goals, but ultimately they were being a bit more defensive, trying to stay with that lead, and us, we just absolutely flat and had nothing to do. And ultimately, it's just not good enough. There's nothing that we can take away from this game positive wise. Everything about today was absolutely negative. And there's just nothing much we can elaborate on in terms of Villa's performance in this game, because we did absolutely nothing yet again. I believe the desire is there to succeed and do well. It's just what is being performed in the minute is not good enough. I said it on Twitter, basically. If you want to go follow us on Twitter, please do. Midfielders, wingers, and our bench need a complete overhaul and focus in the summer. McGinn, you're not going to sell him, are you, because of the price you paid for him and the player quality that there is, but quite frankly, there is just no way we can go with him. He's just not the same self as him, and he's just not adding anything to this team. I know Sanson probably did have his best of games today, but I actually thought, to the three of them, I thought Sanson was actually getting a bit stuck in when he was about to go off. And Douglas Luiz is not offering anything. He's not doing anything defensively, even when we've said about this. He's not adding anything to that defensive line, so we're still conceding goals in really poor given away, and he's just not offering anything in the middle of the park. Wingers wise, Trezeguet, we've already said this, the work rate I think is there, and there is effort from him, but in terms of an end product or any sort of quality, there is no reason he should be playing. Traore, I do think there is much time of him. I think give him still a few more goes next season, let him have these last few games, and I think next season we'll really have more of a better chance to see what he's made of him. El Ghazi, I think it's hard to say with El Ghazi. I think, again, it's somebody that doesn't get enough of a chance, although we saw him in December. But ultimately, he was just not good enough, and perhaps. But ultimately, if it's not going to be him, if we're not having Grealish on the pitch, and we're playing these two wingers, he's not good enough. So ultimately, we need better establishment in the window. You know what I mean? If West Ham could have gotten Ben Rama on loan for 2 million, and then went on in the January window to buy him, what was so hard about us making that decision? What happened to Rashid? What happened to all these players that we could have signed? Not good enough. And it's that bench. It's when you look on that bench, and we have to bring on Barkley, who's done absolutely nothing again. We're having to bring on Keenan Davis, who it isn't his fault. He's got no confidence and needs the time away. It's just not good enough. It's just not acceptable. And I've already said this. I'm not Smith out, because there is no reason to be Smith out considering where we are, what he has done this season. I do believe there is. He's the right manager for us. But if we're anyone else, that manager would be sacked. Inconsistent results, a lack of good performances since the new year, and ultimately just looking like a regression of what we were at the start of this season. It's just not acceptable. And I also said this. We've got to accept that it's time we need to put some consideration to finding the next Jack Grealish, because Jack Grealish is injury prone. We've already discussed this. He's had an injury every season. We're almost always in this type of position when he is injured, where he just looks like this season's going to dimper out. He comes back in, we get better, but he's always injured, and we need to find a replacement for him because we've got nothing without him. And simply put, we are a one-player team. We can't play without him. And it's just really disheartening to see. It's really upsetting to see where we started this season, where we're going to finish this season. And it's ultimately, for me, just not a good enough season. And it's a bloody disappointment, considering how far we could have gone, what we could have actually potentially achieved this season. I know it probably wasn't on the mindset of Dean, but considering where we were in close to that top six, where it wasn't very much a possibility, it's just a disgrace to see how far we've progressed since, since that first half of the season. And it's just going to be really disappointing. I think the only positive for me that we can take out of this season is try and finish in that top 10. But even then, Arsenal are looking back on form in the Premier League. They're looking back, so they can probably still do it. And they were only 2 points ahead of Leeds, and I'm not even confident we can stay ahead of Leeds, because Leeds can grind out a win. They can be a resolute team and still get those results. And us, nothing's looked like it's coming for us. We're playing Fulham next. Do I think we're going to get a win there? No, I actually think Fulham are going to dick us over 1-0. And that's really it. This team is not going anywhere, and I know we ripped the season off after Newcastle, but really, there's just nowhere else this Villa team can go this season. It's just over, isn't it? So that's my instant match reaction to Aston Villa 0-2. Leave in the comments down below what you thought. But without further ado, I've been Ben, up the Villa with a private. We'll see you later, boys.